Hey everybody, I'm Nick, and today I'm going to be doing a quick once-over, checking out my front end, making sure everything's good on my 1988 Chevy Caprice LS swapped cruiser project. That's tight. That's good. So I'm going to keep those, and then I'm going to run an X pipe right here. I'm going to have a removable. So this may be kind of picky of me, but something that's important is that I really don't want the wheels to fall off on this while I'm driving. I'm super excited for this weekend. It's going to be the first quarantine cruise of 2024, and I haven't really done a proper once-over on the Carson's Power Tour. It's February 15th today, and I haven't done a lot of work to the Carson's Power Tour. Power Tour was December 15th, 16th, 17th. That was like an 1,100-mile round trip. Tons of fun. The car did great. Put it on the drag strip, and it was slow, but a lot of fun. Handled pretty well. I was super happy with the way the car performed on that trip. But what I really need to do is I need to give this a proper once-over, make sure all the suspension is still tight, make sure everything's good. The only real work that I've done to it since Power Tour is I lowered the front end, and I put new springs front and rear, actually raised the rear end just a little bit, lowered the front end. Love the way that the car's stance is now, but I've probably got between 4,000 and 5,000 miles on this setup, and I haven't really given it a once-over. So today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be just taking a look under the hood. I think I have a small transmission fluid leak at the cooler. Probably just need to snug something up right there. Going to get the car up in the air, make sure I don't feel like the exhaust is going to fall off. The exhaust on this thing is hideous, and it's going to get redone in the near future with some Black Widow stuff, but I haven't got that far yet. So super excited for it. Let's dig into it. All right, so you guys can see this thing is basically exactly the way it was last time I showed it to you, except my air filter keeps falling off here. I need to do something with that. But overall, I'm super happy with it. It's a 5.3 liter LS out of a 2005 Tahoe. Probably putting between 250 and 280 at the wheel. I think it's got a little more in it than I'm probably have it right now, but I have a relatively conservative timing map on it because I don't want to blow it up. I never had an issue with it getting warm. Got Ford Raptor F-150 fans with a home-built LS1 style fan controller. Hydro boost for the brakes. 14-inch Cadillac SUV Brembos with the SUV Brembos with the Corvette C606 rotor. Honestly, this thing's a great package now. It's got an 4L80E, shifts decently, and I'm very happy with the way that it's performed. But I want to give it a once-over, make sure that everything's still tight, everything's good. It's got a couple funky rattles and stuff, so we're just going to take a quick look and make sure that everything seems decent. Definitely the last thing I want is to have a real problem with this thing on my way to LA or in April on my way to LS Fest. So that's really why I'm doing this today. All right, so starting with the absolute most basics, let's make sure the oil's decent. It's just a little dark. Not a horrible color. Probably about time for a change. It is maybe just a touch low, not super low. It may consume a little bit of oil, which I'm fine with. I don't think it's leaking oil presently. Just barely low. It's still in the crosshatch section. Find a quart of something to put in it here. I'm gonna check power steering fluid here. Let's see. And that's fine, that's got plenty in it. All right, and then I'm gonna start it, and I'm actually gonna check the transmission fluid level. So you're supposed to check transmission fluid levels warm. This is a little on the cool side because it's been sitting for about 45 minutes, so I'll keep that in mind when I check it. looks clean too. So this may be kind of picky of me, but something that's important is that I really don't want the wheels to fall off on this while I'm driving. So I'm going to take a look at all the front suspension right now and make sure that that's not going to happen. So just checking some stuff. Quote is tight. It is, though it could have been tighter. I feel like it could have been tighter. Let's use this extension. Pretty happy with how it looks under here, considering 5,000 miles on this crap. 4 or 5, I don't know how many miles are actually on it. There's the third bolt back there. Let's see, can I get it? Do I have to turn the wheel? I have to turn the wheels. Let's see. Definitely transmission fluid. You know, sometimes it is remarkably nice to just lay under your car and act like you're doing something when you're really not. It can be very comfortable under here. Very comfortable. Probably too comfortable, but sometimes I feel like you need it. Oh, that's not ideal. Oh, I think that you see, I think that's not ideal. Okay. All right. Basically, this is my exhaust that you're looking at. You can see there's a little oil. I had an oil leak that I fixed. It was the camshaft position sensor. So there's some remnant oil of that. It looks like some of the transmission fluid that's been leaking may have been wicking across half the front end of this car, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm going to try to clean that up today. Anyway, basically, you can see the exhaust here. Now, the thing is, the exhaust doesn't have any actual mounts between the header and the back of the muffler. Now in this view, it doesn't look like that's a long run, but that's, what, probably 8 feet, 7 feet, something like that. That's a long ways. That's kind of a problem. And because of that, the exhaust is actually sagging. It's not near as close to the floor as it was when I first put this thing together. So what's going to happen is from about here to the back of the rear muffler, the back of the muffler is all going to get replaced in the near future with a Black Widow exhaust setup with a X pipe. I bought a set of neighbor haters. I'm probably going to run 2 sets of Black Widow mufflers on this car. A set of neighbor haters that are going to go at the very back. I'm going to keep the resonators. I don't want this thing to be droney, so I'm going to keep those. And then I'm going to run an X pipe right here. I'm going to have a removable ball and socket flange right here so I can take the exhaust apart easily. There's going to be another ball and socket flange right behind the mufflers. The main mufflers on the car are going to be a set of Race Venom, probably 350s, maybe 250s. I'll have to listen to some videos and make sure what I want. But a set of Race Venoms, and then there's going to be another set of Neighbor Haters right before about a foot before the end of the exhaust. The exhaust ends right before the rear bumper. And hopefully that thing will have this sounding a little bit deeper, a little throatier, but still plenty quiet, maybe even quieter than it is now. It's kind of loud. I've actually been around a couple of Black Widow cars that seem to be cars that have Black Widow exhaust on them that seem to be a little bit quieter than this thing is, but they also sound better. I'm not super thrilled with the way that this thing sounds. So that's kind of what's to come. I'd like to tuck this just a bit higher somewhere, I think right here. Is it hitting the floor? Somewhere something's hit the ground and made a big clanging noise. I can't tell. I think the exhaust is hitting the floor somewhere. I'm not sure where. Overall, I just think it could be better. This was my first attempt at exhaust. Definitely my largest welding project, and it could have been better. So I'm going to work on that in the near future. Hopefully before LS Fest in April. I'd like to have the car sounding better before that. All right, so one final issue that I need to address. The lower control arms here. The lower control arms. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on this camera, but especially since my gimbal's mad about it. But there is a gap between the control arm and the bushing there. What keeps happening is this control arm nut right here keeps backing off. I've tightened the heck out of it several times and it keeps backing off. So in order to fix this problem with these control arms, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be getting a different set of control arms. I actually have another issue with these control arms. The tolerances aren't very good. That nut keeps backing off. When the nut is not backed off, they squeak, even though I've greased the heck out of everything with the really good energy suspension grease. I've had them apart a couple times early on, trying to deal with this. The nut keeps backing off, so it's a safety concern. It backs off about that much in about 2 weeks. I've been driving it, snugging it up. I'm going to snug it up again right now. But the other issue is I took the car for an alignment and they told me that there's no way to get the caster and camber both in check. They can give me plenty of caster, positive caster, makes the car drive straighter, but I'm going to have tons of negative camber, and that's going to wear my tires out too quickly. Now, the reason for this is because I've lowered the car and the control arm design's not fantastic. By lowering the car, what I've done is I've changed the angles that the control arms sit at. If my hands are the control arms on the frame of the car, stock they sit something like this. And what happens is, I'm going to change, what happens if this is the control arm on the frame of the car, as the control arm comes up, it actually pushes the ball joint out, further away from the car. That goes into positive camber, or closer to positive camber, before going again into negative camber. By lowering the car, the control arm starts already trending towards negative. That's excellent from a handling standpoint. The problem is, the problem is that as it gets closer and closer to negative camber, the control arm is effectively getting shorter. It's no longer reaching out as far. And that means that at ride height, you're stuck with negative camber that you don't necessarily want. It's going to wear the tires out. So the solution to this, I'm going to be getting new control arms. They're going to be more adjustable, have a lot more adjustability, and I'm actually super stoked on that. So you'll be seeing that in the near future. All right, with all that dialed in, I'm going to get this thing dropped back on the ground and put the tools away, and then add a quart of oil, and we'll take this thing and get it cleaned up.